Welcome back to Along the Creative Road with Wendy Brightbill. In today's video, I'm sharing how you can take an old vintage autograph book and use it to document color palettes. I'm so excited to share more. So I recently went thrifting and I'm excited to share something that I picked up. I actually got two of them, but I thought it would be really fun to share this with all of you, and I have a few thoughts about what I'm going to do with them. So when I was thrifting, I happened to see these beautiful books that I think would make the perfect little altered journal. And so I don't know if you guys have ever seen these little vintage, what are they called? Autograph books. So these were basically a keepsake, and they would have their friends write in their autograph book. And so I thought this would be perfect for creating a little art journal. And I actually have an idea of what I want to do with them. I'm actually thinking I want to make a color swatches book and just create some little mini color palettes and not get rid of all of the handwriting, but cover over it in a few different places. This one is all to someone named Marion, and it looks like most of the dates are in 1943. So that's really fun. And this is the other one that I picked up. There were quite a few where I went. So if you see any of these really lovely autograph books, this might be something fun that you want to try as well. Although this one I feel like isn't opening as much as I would like it to. So it's almost like I want to loosen it a little bit, just so you can open it up and lay it flat. I don't know. Let's see if that helps a little bit. I almost think you need to make it even looser. This one is to June. So sweet. And these are all from 1936, 1937. But I love how all the papers are just like different colors. So fun. So stay tuned. I am going to start playing in my new autograph books here soon. Hi everyone, welcome back. So I thought it would be really fun to do a few color palette pages. I don't know what you want to call it. I haven't really thought through the title of it. But one of my favorite things is creating just really fun color swatches with basically color palettes. And as soon as I saw these amazing little autograph books, I was able to fix the binding and make it loose enough to open it up all the way so that it could lay flat, because I think that's really important for creating some, you know, just doing some work inside of this autograph book. But so all I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to just I actually just grabbed some different colors that I felt drawn to today, and I really don't have any specific, you know, I don't have a color palette in mind before I am starting. I am just going to play with some different colors and see what kind of stands out to me. But I ended up just grabbing some different acrylic paints, and then I also have some acrylic markers, some pens, some pencils, even some Neocolor 2s. So I just thought, oh, and I think I have some pastels as well. Here's a new pastel. So I'm kind of feeling drawn to this deep turquoise. So all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to create some little blocks of color is basically all I'm going to be doing. And so I'm starting with this deep turquoise here. And you know what? Since these are so small, why not do 2 at the same time, right? One of the things that I like to tell my students often is just that if you can use more than, like, if you can work on more than one thing at the same time, it's actually really kind of helpful. So anytime I'm working with acrylic paint at all, I try not to waste it. So what I will end up doing is I will have like 3 or 4 things that I'm working on at the same time, or I will just pull out some paper and use up all of whatever paint I'm using. And I just find that for one, you end up being a lot more prolific as an artist if you work on more than one thing at the same time. But also, it ends up being that you're not actually wasting any paint, right? And so oftentimes I'll have just like, you know, some blank papers, and I might just paint a background with this leftover paint, and then it just saves me from wasting anything, right? So that color, okay, I know that people love to know colors. So this is Winsor Newton. This is their Galleria acrylic, and the color is powder blue. And this is also the same series, but I am going to use the pale olive here. So there's no like right or wrong way to start building your palettes. I just realized though too that maybe I want to vary them a little bit. I don't know. Just because it doesn't make sense to do the exact same on both of them, right? So I'm just taking my paintbrush. This one is interesting because it's actually not really even showing up on this paper here. This is a Charvin Tropical Green. So I don't know if you noticed in creating some of these colors and swatches here, I am somewhat sort of mixing some of the colors together in a few of them, so that like this one is actually these 2 colors mixed together. And I actually like that for creating some color swatches. I think it's interesting when you have sort of, you know, a range of different shades that are kind of maybe next to each other in terms of their colors. And so I could even, you know, mix a few of these colors together to get just a different variation. So there's that. And I just grabbed this acrylic paint pen as well. And these are awesome for like making marks here. So I am just continuing to kind of play with colors that are somewhat kind of in the same color family. And I'm just making some marks, and I might even add some of this blue up here. I like, you know, all of this like different range of greens and blues happening down here. So really the whole purpose of doing these little color palette pages is to just sort of explore some different like color combinations, right? Oh man, I just exploded that one just a little bit. And it's just fun to, you know, play in a way that is, I don't know, like it'll just be fun to build like a whole group of color palettes in a book so that, you know, you could use this for any number of ways. Like you could come back to it later and find, okay, I really liked this group of colors together. How can I incorporate these colors in a finished painting, right? And, you know, it somewhat helps to like, maybe just don't overthink it too much, right? So it's just about like playing with different color combinations together, right? And I normally have a range of like blues, well, not blues. I normally have a range of, let's say, like cool colors mixed with warm colors. So I haven't even gotten out my warm colors just yet, but I really love this color. It has to be one of my favorites. It says, I think it's like an olive brown, and this is a Neo color too. So yeah, I'm just playing with some of my mark making tools here. Have a really fun gelato as well. And this one, I don't know what color. Oh, it's pistachio, of course. So I love this color. It is really just a fun, it's like kind of a brighter greenish, but it has those same kind of olive tones in it. So I like that a lot. And I love, like, I just love this grouping of colors all together. I think sometimes one of the challenges to coming up with color palettes is really making sure that you limit them a little bit, right? Because you don't want to have every single color. And, you know, sometimes I can tend to go a little bit too far in my color choices. You know, I love color so much that, you know, sometimes I forget to just stop, you know, I just kind of keep going and going when I'm putting together like my color palettes. And it does help to kind of limit the amount of colors that you use. I feel like this one is too bright. That one's lime. This one I might add down here. This one ended up being like a lot more like greens happening down here for sure. Let's see, what else do I want to add? Maybe I want to come in with some pinks now. I think I'm going to do this pink up here. Of course, that one doesn't quite show up very much, but I like that. Trying to decide what else, what other colors I want to add. I kind of almost feel like I want to add like this olive color as well. So this would just be a really fun, just like, you know, fun little book of colors to have, and just be fun to, like, you know, use it for inspiration for your paintings. I feel like this color is not very like saturated. It's kind of a little bit transparent, which is kind of surprising. I thought it would be a little bit darker. It's kind of see-through here. And I don't know if I want to add it up here or not. I think I am going to add some of this Luminous Opera to up here as well. Oh, I like that. And you know, it's really interesting because the way that the colors show up on these papers really depends on the color of the paper. So that's kind of fun. I don't know if I want any kind of warm colors on these here. This is one of my favorite pens to use. I'm not sure what shade it is, but this is a Jelly Roll by Sakura. But this is one of my favorite colors to use for some mark making. But don't these like little autograph books, don't they make like some very fun, just palette, little art journals, right? And they're just all ready and set to go. And, you know, if you needed to find some in terms of like, you know, yes, you probably might be able to find some if you go thrifting, but sometimes it's like hit or miss, like to know where to find something like this. So what I would do if you wanted to try something similar and you didn't have any at, you know, any sort of like, you couldn't find some like out thrifting yourself, you know, I would definitely just try either Etsy or even eBay sometimes will have stuff like this, and just do a search for vintage autograph book and see if you can't find something similar yourself, right? So what's really fun is just kind of playing with the combination of colors in these books. I felt like I wanted some of this blue-gray color for this bottom palette here. So I think I'm gonna add that to this side, and I really like that with all of these like blues and greens as well. I do kind of feel a little bit bad covering over some of the writing because it is kind of just precious to see all of these, you know, signatures. And what I've found is in like looking through some of these books is that they have written little poems to each other, and it's just so incredibly sweet. Like this one says, "I am writing on white, for you can't bite. I know you're silly, so I'll be Billy." And then it's signed Sally Pearl Daniel. Isn't that just like the cutest little thing, you know? I think I'm gonna add a little bit of gray to this one. So, you know, like really it's just about, you know, how many colors do you want to add, and, you know, when does it sort of feel finished to you in terms of the palette. But what's cool is you can just like, you can experiment with different, you know, different colors and see what, you know, what colors you like together. And just play with different combinations of colors. I kind of feel like maybe I want one small pop of a warm color on this bottom palette, and maybe I'll just add this. I mixed together, this is a coral, light coral Master's Touch acrylic paint, and I mixed it with my Luminous Opera. And that one little pop of bright color is kind of fun. I could even add some of this pastel pink as well. But like I said, I don't want to go too far in terms of adding. I don't want to add too many colors, so I don't want to take it too far. Oh my gosh, I love this color on that paper. It's just really lovely. So yeah, I think I'll add that right there. Maybe a little bit right here. So one of the things that I talk about, I have a course that's called 21 Day Color Project, and it's all based on color, and it's about like actually creating some of these fun color palettes like this one. And so one of the things that I talk about in that course is you want to, whenever you're putting together your specific color palettes, you kind of want to be aware of, let's say, what am I trying to say here? You want to be aware of the saturation levels in your colors that you're choosing. And you want to make sure that they're not all the same saturation levels. So if you're putting together a palette, you want to have a mixture of, let's say, this color right here has some browns in it, and it's a duller color. So it's not the same vibrancy as, say, like this brighter blue that I have happening, right? Or even the super bright pink. If you choose all colors that are super vibrant and bright for your color palettes, it gets a little bit exhausting. So choosing one or two like duller colors to pair with your brights actually gives some really nice balance to your color palettes, because this color matches and pairs really nice with this bright pop of pink, right? And likewise, adding in some pastels as well when you're looking to put together a color palette, it also kind of balances things out, and then also including possibly some darker colors. So, you know, like this gray right here is kind of darker, but it's also a more muted tone. So it allows some of the other colors to shine a little bit more. So those are some of the things that I like to take into account when I'm planning out my color palettes and building those. So the other thing you want to think about while you're planning your color palettes is you kind of want to think about like the amount of each color, right? And so having like, you know, bigger blocks of color, you know, where like, let's say you did like a lot more dark and then just like a tiny little bright pop of color in a few places, you know, that's going to feel a little bit different. Or having larger amounts of like pastels is going to give you a much like lighter feeling to a piece. So think about not only the colors that you're choosing, but also the amounts of those colors, right? So if you have more like pastels in places, then it's going to feel a little bit lighter and airier. Whereas if you have a lot more darker colors, your palette's going to feel a lot more grounded and maybe even a little bit moody. So think about that when you're putting together your color palettes, and also the combination of colors and how much of each color you put into your color palette is going to make a huge difference, right? Like just having this one little bright pop of my orangey fluorescent color is quite different than if I had done like bigger chunks of that color, like all throughout, right? So those are some of the things you will probably want to think about as you are playing with color and making your fun little color palettes in your books. Now, if you might not have one of these autograph books, but you might have something similar in terms of, you know, old vintage books. Like you might have some ledger paper books. Those would also work for something like this. And really just anything that's vintage. I tend to collect a lot of vintage type of books, and I end up having like a whole bunch of these small little books. My daughter ends up stealing them from me, but I do collect them. So, you know, maybe this inspires you to use something else that you have sitting around. I kind of feel like I want to see what this color looks like as well. So I hope you had fun watching me create these really fun little color palette pages. And I hope that you're inspired to, you know, go thrifting, see what you can find. Maybe you can't find some of these autograph books, but maybe you find something similar that you can create your own color palette pages. And let me know if you make some pages like this and share your color palettes with me. And if you want to check out my course, 21 Day Color Project, I will also leave the link for that in my in the description for this video. Thanks so much.